Okay. Welcome to the Michigan Tribute to Victims of Dangerous Dogs. I'm Anne Marie Rogers from Responsible Citizens for Public Safety, and we promote public safety through canine awareness education and legislation, and we advocate for victims of dog attacks. And we listen to victims' voices. And today we have Leticia Spagnuolo from Livingston County, and her dog was killed by her neighbor's pit bull mastiff mix dog. Welcome, Leticia, and please tell us about the attack.
Thank you so much, Anne Marie, for having me here. What happened is on May 28th of 2022, I let my 2 Yorkshire Terriers outside to go to the bathroom for their last potty break of the night. I went back out 5 minutes later because where we're at, so at night they only got 5 minutes out because I was always afraid something would happen. Well, I went to go get them at 9:05, and one of the dogs was at the door, uncharacteristic, jumping at the door trying to get in, and I'm like, what's going on? So I went and I looked, and I went out and I saw a bull mastiff mix in my see Pearl, but then when I looked closer, she was actually being a dog. So I didn't eat before I ran down the porch, and I was able to grab the dog by its collar and lift it up. I didn't even realize during all of this I had been bitten on my left hand because I was just so, I thought she was dead at this point in time. So I was screaming because I wanted the neighbor to come out, and I wanted him to come and shoot this dog because it was so dangerous. I didn't want it to go and hurt anybody else. And he wasn't home, but his wife came out 911. And in the meantime, she's like, put the dog out of the fence, is what 911 said to do. And I'm like, I don't want this dog to go else. He's really dangerous. So I tied the dog. I opened my fence, put him on the outside, and tied him to the fence so that he couldn't go else, because he did have a rope that he was taking, not a secure rope whatsoever. It was not any kind of a chain or a leash or anything that would have been secure for a dog like that. So then I went back live. So I rushed her into the house, and I called my sister and said, we've got to get her to the emergency vet as soon as possible. And while I was talking to my sister on the phone, I saw the neighbor come down from down the street, and I'm like, oh, I know whose dog this is now. I didn't recognize it at first, but then I out when I saw him, because he stopped right in front of my yard as soon as he saw the dog was tied up. And I said, is that your dog? And he didn't say 2 words to me. He got out of his car. He actually flicked a cigarette at me. And he went, I said, because the police need to come because your dog has attacked mine. He went and took his dog, went back down the street. I don't know what he thought he was hiding at that time. And, I was so mad, but I had to try to get Pearl to the hospital. So then my other sister came. We rushed Pearl to MSU. And while we were there, my other sister, who is a nurse, came and any open wounds. I'm like, I don't know, I'm covered with blood. I don't know whose blood it is, if it's mine or it's Pearl's. And she's like, go wash your hands. And I went and washed at the animal hospital, and I had an active wound that looked like a dog bite. So we called back into 911 to let them know, because at first I didn't think I was bitten, but then I discovered I was. And we called, the Fowlerville police came to MSU hospital, and he came and took photos, and I'm like, well, what's going on with that dog? And he's like, well, I can't do anything. He's like, all I can do is issue a ticket. And I'm like, then I said, okay, I can do, going to be able to do something, are they not? He's like, oh no, all they can do is give a ticket too. The man I have ever been in all my life, because one, I knew that that police officer was not right, that animal control ticket. And two, it was like, we knew that these people had had problems with these dogs for I don't know how long. So Pearl was in the hospital for a day and a half, Saturday night, and she passed away on Monday afternoon. And my mom, her emotional support animal, Pearl died on Monday. My mom had a stroke on that that she never recovered from. And she passed away on July 1st of 2020. So I had Pearl and then my mom's loss. And then in the meantime, what I did is, like I said, because I was so angered by the response, I just raised hell because I was just so angry at everything. Animal control up on Tuesday, and they were going to get a show cause because no animal can be put to sleep or animal control and the chief of collar went to go talk to the defendants, the owners of the dogs, and they were actually able to get them to surrender that dog to. But to me, this experience was so horrible. I'm like, things have got to change. So I started a change.org petition called Justice for Pearl. And we have over 1,400 signatures right now. And we want to change, I want to see the laws changed so that enforcement is easier, so that these dogs can be taken away and they're not going back to their owners. Because the issues was that these people live 20 feet away from a school bus, and there was going to be school that Tuesday. So, and these are little kids and parents that are going to be waiting right next to their house. It's like you can't be telling me that you're just going to let these dogs stay there and you're not going to do anything. There's nothing you can do. And they blame the courts. And then I did not realize until later on, when I was working with another woman, how judges now are not so inclined to put these dogs to sleep. They're trying to actually find places for them to go, which seems ridiculous to me because this dog that killed Pearl, he had bitten somebody just the year before, like seriously injured them. And it only goes up, it doesn't go down. And no amount of training and no amount of anything is going to change that.
You're exactly right. That's exactly right. And you cannot separate attacks on dog attacks from attacks on people. It's all a very serious public safety issue.
It is. And they grow, and I didn't realize, like we've talked about before, because we're out in Livingston County, and just south of where I live in Iosco Township is where in 2007 we had the two people that were killed by the pack of American bulldogs. There were some extenuating circumstances to that situation, but I had read that like a month or two before that attack had happened, those dogs had killed a puppy that I believe belonged to neighbors. So it's just always increasing. And that's, to me, we need to start taking these attacks more seriously. And we need to make sure, because another problem too is that these people don't have any insurance. So I have an over $10,000 vet bill and other I'll probably never see. And there's no motivation to sue people that don't have any money.
Exactly. Yeah, you brought up some really, really good points, because we do have to explore. There's too many attacks happening. Yours was horrific, and again, I am just so sorry, and about your mom too. That's just a tragic loss. But you're right. A lot of times, judges are loath to euthanize the dangerous dogs, and that seems to be a trend. They want to take the dogs and recycle them into our neighborhoods, and that they'll just cause future injury.
Yes. And because this dog, it had progressed, and there's even in the police reports it stated that this dog been aggressive towards people and animals, and they have had a few cats that disappeared. I'm not sure if what happened with that, but it just seemed like the dog that attacked was very secure and attacking and eating a smaller animal.
Yeah. Well, aggression does escalate in dogs over time. So you're right about that. And so I really we're trying to work on some legislation now that will help protect public safety, that is an alternative to breed specific legislation. That seems to be the trend. We're getting away from breed specific ordinances and legislation. So you want to strengthen the dangerous dog law. And I think that's really good. And you're working with some legislators to.
Yes. Our legislature out here, our state representative is Bob Bazat. And I have met with him a few times and he has come up with some drafts to strengthen things, which I like a lot of what's in there. But I would still like further, because what I would like to see at the very least is that dogs can be taken away right away when something like this happens, that you don't order. Because if a human being had done the things that this dog had done, you would think that they would have been arrested by the very least and spend a day in jail.
Well, absolutely. And actually, that is part of our current law. I mean, in Michigan, a dangerous dog is one that attacks and causes serious injury or death to another dog or serious injury to a human being. That's legally dangerous here in Michigan. So I think that the influx of the no-kill movement has, the shelters are now just overridden with dogs.
Yes.
And so I think they're being directed. I know they are in my county. They're directing the animal control officers to leave dogs in their homes for home quarantine, the state mandated 10-day quarantine period.
Yes.
As opposed to taking them into the shelters, because if they brought more dogs in, then they're going to have to likely euthanize some. And it seems to make people upset.
Yes.
But you have to, their mission is to protect public safety. And right now, that is not happening. The balance is not right. They're protecting the dogs, marketing the dogs, and neglecting the public safety. And that's causing, and when shelters do that, it can end up in an epidemic of serious injury and death to animals and to human beings. So that's
it truly is. And like, since this has happened, I thought that my case was kind of like the exception to the rule, but my case is the rule. And I'm like, and I've seen so much since this has happened, so many different people, everything that's happened, the people that are getting killed in Detroit, that little boy that was just killed, the couple that was attacked in St. Clair Shores. I mean, it's to a point where it's like, when is it going to stop? And I don't feel comfortable now taking my dogs for a walk without having a gun. And it's that bad. And it's because this wasn't even the first experience like this, because I had another Yorkie at another time, and a pit bull got loose and tried to pull him out the mouth of a pit bull before anything happened and pull the pit bull back. So luckily neither one of us how that time somebody was like,
I would say God was looking out for you there.
Yeah. And then
people are trying to save their own dogs, and they are horrifically attacked by.
Exactly. And then another time there was an older woman that had a German Shepherd, and she was standing out when we were walking by, and the dog knocked her over and came and tried. So it's people that get these dogs that can't handle them because they don't realize just how powerful they are, or realize, maybe a German Shepherd or a pit bull is not a good fit for me. Maybe I need something a little more that I can control, because nobody seems to realize, everybody seems like in the love. And again, I just from what we've seen, like on television and everything, everybody's like, oh, the pit bull is the perfect dog, and they do this and they do that. But people don't realize how much work has had to go into these dogs to make them act like that. No, I mean, no dog's going to come perfect, but it takes a lot of work to get them to do the things you see on TV. It's not, they come pre-trained.
Absolutely not. And they are certainly not a breed for your average pet owner. They are high energy. They have genetic predisposition. I mean, centuries of selective breeding for them to kill dogs. So most of them are dog aggressive. And so, if you're going to have one, you have to be hyper responsible. You have to be the only pet in the household. No other animals in the household, no children in the household, and then the hypervigilance. And that is not your average pet owner.
No, no, it's not. I mean, I had a German Shepherd before, and he was a lot of work. He was a sweet dog, but he was a lot more work than I thought I was going to have to put in because, like I said, you get German Shepherds come, they're like, oh, they're so smart, they're pre-trained, but they're not. They are smart, but they, he would, the yard, he wouldn't go hurt anybody. He would like to get out of the backyard and go sit on the front stoop so that he get let back in. But it's like, you can't be out, you're going to scare people. And I mean, and that's what you always worry about. And he liked to, like I said, climb over. We got a kennel for him that had a roof, and it was a 10-foot kennel, and he would climb out of it because that's what they're made for. And it was like, and again, he wasn't doing anything bad, but you don't need to be out running around because it's not safe for you and it's not safe for other people. And nobody seems to think that it's okay to not have your dog, even little dogs. I've had people that have had their little dogs that have run up to me and they just let them loose all over. And it's like, no, that's not acceptable. It's like your dog needs to be under your control, no matter what size it is, at all times.
Yes, and then after attacks, everybody's got the outcry, oh, it's the owner, not the dog. And it is both.
Mm-hmm.
But so I wanted to look at some alternates to breed specific legislation. And I think that adding to our already, we have the Dangerous Dog Act 426 of 1988 that's being updated. I think if we added a dangerous dog registry,
Yes.
so that people know where the dogs are after they've been deemed dangerous in a court system. A lot of courts now just move the dog out of their jurisdiction and then they're passed off to a rescue. And then we don't know where those dogs end up. They could be somewhere coming to your neighborhood.
Yes.
I'm gonna see.
And then nobody thinks that a rescue is going to place a dangerous dog with them. They're like, nobody would think that.
The public relies on animal shelters to have a safe dog. They think anybody would think you're going into the shelter or the animal rescue, they're not going to give you a dog that's vicious. They would tell you if it's bad. But that's why we also need to add a mandatory bite disclosure law. I like to call it the truth in pet adoption law. It's been adopted in California and Virginia, and that requires animal shelters and rescue groups to disclose all the records, behavioral notes about a dog's aggressive behavior or any bites to a person or another animal. Because even if you're going to the shelter to adopt, say you want to adopt a beagle, and this beagle has attacked another dog, and you bring it home and you've got some little kids and you have another dog at home. And, all kinds of chaos could ensue. So I think it's incumbent upon them to at least tell the truth about that. They shouldn't hide it with flowery language and mask some of these dogs' bad behavior with medications just to, for their marketing to,
Yes.
to
Yes.
increase their sales. And that's what's happening. And people don't realize it. And here, I don't know if I can share a screen. This is, let me see if I can put this on here. I just sent this out to some legislators, and it says, this is Lavelle Anderson, who was just mauled to death last week by a pit bull in Detroit. And will this boy's killer be your neighbor's new adopted dog? It's a real possibility, and it shouldn't be like that. So anyway, yeah, so I'm hoping, to get some legislators after a tragedy like this to think about that. To think about adopting these kind of laws. Also, in Spain, when I first heard about it, I was sort of thought, oh no, that wouldn't work here. But Spain just adopted through their Animal Welfare Act mandatory liability insurance for all dog owners. And I was thinking, boy, I don't have any dogs that need, they would never bite. But, if you did it on a scale, people that have lower risk dogs would maybe 10 or $20 a year. I'd pay that for insurance. But if you had a higher risk dog, or certainly if it attacked and bitten, your premium would be higher. But after these attacks, everybody say, oh, it's the owner's responsibility. They have to be more responsible. Well, I think that might be a way to make them more responsible. If they had to start paying for insurance for their dogs, that's and it would take, any insurance would take care of the horrific attacks. The medical bills. I mean, people get ruinous medical bills from these severe attacks.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
I've had people that
that's
have
another
reached out
idea.
to me. Yeah, because I've had people that have reached out to me, that one lady said that she had $379,000 worth of surgeries when she was attacked by a pit bull. Luckily, they had insurance, but it's kind of like, these people don't have insurance. They don't have any, like you said, any motivation to get it.
Right. Exactly. I mean, and a lot of people, I mean, Michigan is a strict liability state, and that means that you can sue civil. You're responsible as a dog owner, whether you know your dog's dangerous or not. You're responsible for damages to that dog, from that dog. I'm sorry. But it's only good if you have homeowners insurance. If somebody's uncollectible, then you're kind of out of luck that way.
Mhm.
I think you have to know it's dangerous in order to have any criminal
Yes,
penalty.
yes, and that's kind of like what happened, even though this dog that killed Pearl had attacked somebody the year before, they never adjudicated it as a vicious dog. So then instead of getting like the next level up, which initially they were not going to charge these people with anything, but again, like I said, you just have to not be afraid to go and tell these people this is BS and you need to do something. So they got him with a misdemeanor, which was a $250 fine plus court costs. And then I had my restitution put on them, because that's really the only way you're going to collect. It's going to take a really, really long time. And I still have, like I said, a civil suit, because I wanted to make sure that I sued both the husband and wife, because it's something that people may not be aware of in Michigan, is that anybody who's 18 or older that lives in a household with a dog is considered an owner of that dog. So you can be held liable if your husband and wife, and because initially they were trying to blame it all on the husband, because like you said, he's not collectible, and the wife actually has a job. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 it's going to be both of you. It's going to be both of you, because I want you guys, this is going to hurt, because if I don't do anything, if I just choose not to do this civilly, you're going to go get another dog and you're going to go right back to what you were doing before. And I've said this before, that I was surprised that they didn't wind up bringing another dog home as they got done putting the other one to sleep at the vet, because these are the kind of people that they are.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, I do not want to see this happen to anybody else again. So if I can make a difference by suing somebody civilly, I'm going to do it, because that's the only recourse that I have.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, you've done a great job, more than many people have done, to get justice in their cases. So we sure appreciate that. But I'll tell you, something has got to happen. We've had 4 human fatalities this year, and there's no way to track how many beloved pets have been killed in dangerous dog attacks.
No,
I
and
we already know,
livestock.
and livestock too. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I know of people's horses, a large size, average size horses that have been taken down by a dangerous dog, cattle, goats, sheep,
Yep.
everything. It's a real problem, and something has to change. We can't just talk about it anymore. These legislators must act. So we are going to, I'm so glad to have you here and have
Yep.
you part of our coalition to enact change in Michigan, because we cannot lose one more
No, no.
life.
And And we're not, and the things we're not even hearing about, because we had out here, I didn't even hear about this, but I guess some people's donkeys got killed over the summer too. And the judge that was out here, because livestock's not part of the Dangerous Dog Act, again, let the dog skate. I don't know what happened with it, or if it's in some kind of rehabilitation program. I don't know, but we had, I want to say like in 2010, there were two German shepherds that killed an Asian bull, and they wound up impounding those dogs, and they kept them during the trial for like 9 months, and then they wound up being euthanized anyway. So I don't know. This current event seems to be happening in the last like 10, 15 years. And I know, to me, it's like, love all animals, you could save everything. That's kind of what is this mentality, because you really can't save everybody.
Nor should anyone try. There are some animals that are absolutely too dangerous to live in civilized society, and to warehouse those kind of dogs, in a kennel 24/7 is inhumane.
Yes.
And, even though they're vicious, they would have no quality of life.
Yeah.
That, that is not a solution, is to do something like that. I mean, and typically, it's the number one canine killer of people, pets, and livestock every year without fail. This is the data. Um, there's always a top five breeds, but it's pit bulls are number one, followed by Rottweilers. Then shepherds usually come somewhere in third, and then other mixed breeds. They'll Great Danes, Chows, um, not with fatalities, Dobermans, maybe a couple, but
But pit
those are
bulls,
usually the top five.
yeah. And pit bulls, if you look at their numbers, at least the numbers that I've seen, almost 10 victims wind up being fatalities.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Boy, yeah. They've killed over 700 Americans
Yeah.
that we know of. So
Michigan, yeah, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Anne Marie, but we were, according to the United States Postal Service, Michigan is in the top 10 for bites. I think we're number 6. Now I think we went to 7 or 8 this year, but we're still in the top 10. And Texas,
right,
California and Texas are the two highest, which they're much
bigger. Bigger. Yeah, I remember seeing those statistics. And boy, when we were in Lansing in 2019, there was a horrible attack, a pit bull attack in Detroit on a postal worker. And it was a pit bull named Boss Hog, and he pulled down this postal worker, and he deployed an entire can of mace in the dog's eyes, nose, mouth. It did nothing. And a man named O'Neill Colley was driving by right at the right time, and he got out of his truck, was on the way to work, saw it happening, and he stopped that dog attack with some other neighbors and really saved his life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just happens too frequently. It's constantly in the news. So we're going to keep plugging away and keep on these legislators until they act, because it's really up to them to protect our state with good, responsible pet policies and dangerous dog laws to
Exactly.
mitigate.
And, and another thing too, it seems like the spay and neuter is, and because there's like no low cost spay or neutering programs out here anyway.
Well, I know there aren't as many as there should be, but yeah, spay neuter is a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, here's the problem. Ypsilanti Township has a mandatory spay neuter law for pit bulls because, let's face it, that is the majority of dogs in shelters. I would say
Yes.
minimum 75% are pit bulls and pit bull mixes, and as many as up to 90 or more percent. But Ypsilanti has had a mandatory spay neuter of pit bulls in effect, and they have seen fantastic success with that. I mean, they're seeing a decrease of up to 50% of pit bulls coming into their shelters since they've had that ordinance. But the problem now is they're bringing in, there's a new package of bills that are called preemption bills that are coming in that somebody introduced this year that would strip the authority of local governments to enact or enforce any type of breed-specific legislation, and that would include the mandatory spay neuter of pit bulls. So that's too bad, because there's only about 40 communities that have that some type of legislation, whether it's a declaration of certain breeds as dangerous, and it's always the top 5 breeds. Most of them do include pit bulls. But if these bills should pass, all of their ordinances would be null and void. So I hope it doesn't pass. But in the alternative, you know, enacting these other kind of things, the mandatory bite disclosure laws, the dangerous dog registry, these are all things that could be sort of a safety net
Yes,
for the entire state. So
yes, no, I agree.
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something has to be done. I mean, we've already had 4 people killed this year, and I think one man was in your township, but we just had Lavelle Anderson, age 4, in Detroit.
And that's just so sad, because I'm not comparing him to Pearl at all, but there was the exact same situation, that she was in her fenced in yard and he was in his fenced in yard. I'm like, how can you not be any more safe?
Right,
How can you not feel like you're any more safe, that you're in your own yard, you've got a fence to keep you safe, and just evil finds its way in.
exactly, exactly. So, well, you know, we just have to keep the issue in the public eye, and in hopes that people will join our coalition to fight for public safety.
Yes, and I'm like, I'm not planning to go anywhere. This is going into year number 2 that I have been doing this. And like I think you've seen before, I said, I won't stop fighting for Pearl until I'm gone.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. This is my life's mission.
Yes.
Well, so yeah. Well, gosh, Leticia, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. And I, again, I'm so sorry about Pearl, but I so appreciate your willingness to fight.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I don't want to see this happen to anybody else if we can avoid it. And, it just is a matter of getting people to understand how serious this is, and making meaningful changes, or at very least enforcing what we have.
Absolutely. Because you can have all the laws in the world, but if they're not enforced, they're pretty much worthless.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Anne Marie.
You're welcome. Thank you again for being here. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you on our next segment. And we'll let you know when that's going to be. All right. Have a wonderful
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.